US 220, alternate, and business in Pennsylvania. Alright, hello everyone, I am Cornwall437, and for this Control City video, I wanted to do something a little different, and we are going to be talking about US 220's alternate and business routes here in Pennsylvania, because I thought it would be pretty fun to do a video like this instead of a regular highway, and these routes I think would be pretty interesting to talk about. So we are covering 3 routes today. There are 2 business routes of US 220 in Pennsylvania, one in Bedford and one in Altoona, or at least the Wikipedia article about US 220 special routes calls it the Blair County Business Route, although I'm just going to refer to it as the Altoona Business Route for simplicity. And of course, there is US 220's alternate route in Center County. So, we are going to start with the US 220 business routes because the Bedford business route is the southernmost of these 3 routes, and we will work our way northward. Here is a map of the 2 business routes of US 220 in Pennsylvania. Mainline US 220 is highlighted in red, and the business routes are highlighted in blue. We could see the Bedford business route in the southern part of the state, and the Altoona business route starts a bit further north as it goes through the city of Altoona and then ultimately ends a few miles north of Tyrone at Pennsylvania 350. But we are going to start talking about the Bedford business route of US 220 first, because it is the southernmost one. So let's start talking about Northbound business 220 in Bedford. Here is the beginning of 220 business just south of the town of Bedford, and we get a whole bunch of signs here, but none of them really give us a whole lot of information. I mean, the 2 Interstate 99 and 230 is pretty helpful, I guess, but we don't get any control cities here, and I believe at this point 220 should be getting signed for Altoona, because I feel like if you want to go to Bedford, you should just get off right here, because this will actually take you like into the heart of downtown Bedford, and 220 kind of bypasses Bedford to the west. There is an exit specifically for Bedford, but then you have to travel a bit more anyways, so it's not really any different to take either of these routes to get to Bedford. So I believe this Bedford Springs Resort blue sign should just be a sign for Bedford, turn right, and then Altoona would be a arrow pointing up and to the left. So anyways, here is our first reassurance shield for business 220 north. And here is our turn for the Bedford Springs Resort, and we get some pretty nice scenery right here with the mountains and stuff, although I would expect no less from Pennsylvania, because, you know, we have terrible control cities here, but we do have a lot of beautiful scenery. That is one good thing. Here we are now in downtown Bedford at this main intersection with Business US 30, and we can also see that we are getting 2 US 220 and Interstate 99 straight ahead, although we get an awful acorn shield for 2 US 220, and I really do not like that. These shields are awful, and I don't know why we have so many of them. Here is another reassurance shield for Business 220, and it is also an acorn shield, so that is not great to see. Here we are passing under US 30 as we also get the Juniata River to our left. So this is a pretty cool picture. On the other side of Bedford, we get a mileage sign with Altoona on the top line at 36 miles away. And Johnstown is 38 miles away as we get a 2 Interstate 99 shield right here as well. And I think this is perfectly done because, well, I'll talk about it more here in a minute. We also get this Pennsylvania Turnpike 2-mile sign right afterwards, so that is helpful. And here we are going under the turnpike. Our turn left to it will be coming up very shortly. In fact, here it is right now. We got these 2 70 and 76 shields along with the signs for the Pennsylvania Turnpike turn left. And we also see a bunch of restaurants and gas stations and stuff along this strip just north of downtown Bedford. Here is the turnoff to get over to regular US 220, Interstate 99, and if you want to go back to 30, here is an option for that. And we also got a pull-through overhead for North 220 Business, sign for nothing. Although if we do look on the ground, we can see that our left turn is getting the control cities of Cumberland, Altoona, and Johnstown. The Johnstown is there because I guess that's how they want you to get to Johnstown, by taking 99 and 220 over to the Pennsylvania 56 exit. Although either way will lead you to Johnstown, so I think it doesn't really matter too much. I guess the other way is very slightly faster. Also on the ground is a sign for Bedford County Airport, 2 miles ahead. And here is our turn for the Bedford County Airport. We are meeting and going to become concurrent with Pennsylvania 56 here. And we get another direction sign for Altoona and Johnstown, because obviously 220 will be, or Business 220 will be looping back to give you access to regular 220 once again. So Altoona and Johnstown, really all that you could ask for here on this sign. We get a reassurance keystone for Pennsylvania 56 and a reassurance Business 220 shield. So this is pretty interesting right here. Although very shortly up the road we are ending Business 220 and get a shield for that. And the turn left for Pennsylvania 56 is getting 2 Interstate 99 and US 220, Altoona and Johnstown. So once again, those are the right choices. And just for kicks, here is the interchange where Pennsylvania 56 meets up with Interstate 99 and 220 as it gets Bedford southbound as opposed to Cumberland. And Northbound, of course, is getting signed for Altoona, so that is good. So now we will turn around and start talking about Southbound 220 Business in Bedford. Here is a look at a right turn onto Pennsylvania 56, and we don't actually get any mention of Business 220 starting here. Although, interestingly, the left turn here is signed for Altoona, even though it would be much faster to get on to 99 at this point. as opposed to turning left. So I don't know why that gets signed for Altoona. I would think you would want to put Cessna on this sign because Cessna is right here off of this left turn, and it's the reason why we saw that awful mileage sign on Interstate 99 with Cessna on the top line and Bedford was on the bottom line at only 8 miles away. It's right off of this turn, and Pennsylvania 56 was getting signed for Cessna on the exit sign, so what gives? Also, I should mention, this street view is from 2016, and it's the latest one that they took right here, so that is really interesting. Once again, we can see that Business 220 is about to slip off of Pennsylvania 56, and if we look over to the right, we can actually see Interstate 99, so that is pretty interesting. And at our turn to get off of Pennsylvania 56, we can see that we are signed for Bedford and Bedford County Airport. So, pretty interesting stuff. And Pennsylvania 56 is getting signed for Shellisburg because it is going to meet up with US 30, and that is US 30's westbound control from here. Oh, that should say Greensburg if you're going to favor US 30. Since there really isn't anything left on Pennsylvania 56. And we can also see a 2 PA Turnpike 76 green keystone, so that is really weird. Anyway, here is the first reassurance shield of Southbound Business 220, and we get another green Pennsylvania Turnpike 76 keystone. Here is the left turn to go to the Bedford County Airport. And here we are at the turn to go over to Interstate 99's beginning and southbound US 220 to go to Cumberland, which is on the sign. And we also get another 230 shield. We are signed straight ahead for Bedford, which makes sense. We are not at the downtown yet. Here is the turn for the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and this time it is getting signed for Pittsburgh and Harrisburg, which is absolutely correct, as the lane for Bedford is stay left. Here we are on the outskirts of Bedford as we get another 230 shield. This one is an awful acorn shield. Also, I forgot to mention these last two pictures have been my own. That last one was my own picture, and this is also my own picture. And that 230 turn will lead you over here to this intersection where it is getting signed for Everett and Bedford. Oh, the eastbound should be McCallsburg or Chambersburg, and the westbound should be Greensburg, because why would you get on here just to go back to Bedford? Stupid. In downtown Bedford, we are meeting Business US 30 as it gets signed to East 30 straight. Well, I guess we are getting signed to East 30 straight ahead, and to West 30 make a right turn as we get more acorn shields. Not a fan of those. Here is the left turn to East US 30 as we get yet another acorn shield right here. I don't know why there are so many of them in Bedford. I really don't like that. And to add insult to injury, these are all like brand new ones. I looked on Street View, and like 5 years ago or something like that, these were all just regular, normal looking, like regular shit. Why? Why are these there? Anyway, here is the turn for the Bedford Springs Resort once again, as we also get a green delivery sign straight ahead. That is interesting. And here is a turn for Bedford Springs Deliveries. Alright. Not really sure. Well, I mean, I guess it's probably useful for Whatever. We are going to move on to the end of Southbound Business 220 in Bedford as we get an end shield and a junction for regular 220 shield. Although at our turn to get onto US 220 South and North, we get no control cities. I believe at this point it should be Southbound Cumberland and Northbound Altoona. And now we will move on to quarter march 437s the way it should be for the Business 220 Bedford route. I believe they pretty much get this always right. Starting from the beginning, I think it should be Bedford because that is the way to get directly into downtown Bedford. And then after leaving Bedford, it should be Altoona until the junction for Interstate 99. And then after that, it should be Johnstown because staying straight will lead you to Pennsylvania 56, which will take you to Johnstown should you follow Pennsylvania 56. And then going southbound, it should be Bedford, basically all the way into downtown, and then it should be Cumberland after that because of meeting US 220 regular southbound. Alright, we have finished talking about the Bedford US 220 business route. Let us now get on to the real meat of this video, which is the US 220 Altoona business route. The Altoona business route for US 220 is by far the longest of the three routes that we are covering today, and it is also a really long business route in general. It is 37 miles long, which I have no idea if there are any other business routes that are nearly that long. But in any case, let's get it started by talking about Northbound Business 220 Altoona. And we will start here on Interstate 99 at exit 15, where we can see Claysburg and King on the sign, although there is no mention of Business 220, but this is where the route starts, so that is pretty interesting. And off of the ramp, we can see that we are getting a sign for King, Sproul, and Claysburg at the left turn, and Ore Hill for the right turn, which isn't even like a real place. So yeah, I don't know, pretty weird stuff at this turn, but we will be turning left here, and we can see that if we want to get to Sproul and Claysburg, we will need to keep right, and that King will be at the left turn that we can see just up ahead. Here we get our first reassurance shield for Northbound Business 220, and one of the strangest mileage signs I have ever seen. Sproul is on the top line with no distance mentioned, and Claysburg is on the bottom line at only 1 mile away. And both of these places are technically unincorporated communities, although I can kind of understand the signage for Claysburg because despite it being an unincorporated community, there are around 1,300 people living there. But I still don't understand why Sproul doesn't just get a straight up arrow, because we have seen straight up arrows on mileage signs before, and I think it just doesn't make sense to have just nothing listed there. The way this sign reads, it almost kind of looks like Sproul and Claysburg are the same place, which doesn't really make any sense. However, I looked back on Google Street View, and this street view from July 2009 has this mileage sign with a line in the middle, and that makes a heck of a lot more sense to me. So why doesn't this sign look like that now? PennDOT at work once again. So here is our major intersection in Sproul, and it's funny, this place has a Sheetz, and I think that's really funny that this is such a minor place, but it has a Sheetz, and it's not even like we're beating a numbered route here, so yeah, I don't know, I just think that's really funny. But anyway, we go up the road, and this is about exactly 1 mile from the mileage sign. This is Claysburg, so woohoo. Although I do definitely want to go to this Claysburg pizza place. It sounds good. At least all these signs and stuff make me really want to go there. I want to see what their pizza is like. Anyways, here we are meeting Pennsylvania Route 164, and westbound, I believe it doesn't actually get any control cities. I can't remember, but like right here it does not. Maybe there's a sign behind us. But now we are going to become concurrent with eastbound Pennsylvania 164, and we are getting sign for Duncansville and Altoona, which is interesting because in theory, you should be favoring Pennsylvania 164 here, and 164 does not go to either of these places. So, yeah, quite interesting that they're favoring the business route of 220. Although, I definitely believe that Altoona is a good choice for the business route. Here is where Pennsylvania 64 splits off, and we also get a 2 Pennsylvania 36 Keystone and 2 Interstate 99 and 220 shields, because the left turn will take you over to that. And Pennsylvania 164 is getting signed for Hollidaysburg and Roaring Spring, because Pennsylvania 36 goes into Hollidaysburg and it will be going, and Pennsylvania 164 will be going into Roaring Spring. We are getting signed for Duncansville, and 99 and 220 are getting signed for Altoona, which is correct. Leaving that intersection, we get another mileage sign with Newry, I'm guessing that's how that's pronounced, at 1 mile away, and Duncansville is on the bottom line at 4 miles away, so that makes sense for this business route to be signed for. Now we are meeting and going to become concurrent with US 22, as it gets signed for Hollidaysburg, which is literally just like a mile east of here or something like that. I really think this should say Huntington, although straight ahead is getting signed for Altoona and Ebensburg, because 22 will eventually meet up with 99 over there, so I guess really either way is 299 and 220. You have a lot of options to get to the big highway from here, but in any case, we will be making our right turn now. Here is an interesting point where we get a reassurance shield for both North Business 220 and East US 22, although they are spaced out by quite a lot, so I don't know why they're not just right next to each other. Maybe they couldn't put the post for the 22 in all these drives. I don't know. Also, we could see a sign for welcome to Duncansville, so that is pretty cool. Anyway, here we are splitting off of US 220, and we are getting signed for 220 and 99, although we don't get any cities listed here, so that is interesting. Maybe it was behind us, but I don't know. Anyway, after we make that left turn, we get a 1-line mileage sign with just Altoona on it, and I think that makes sense. Here we are directly interchanging with Interstate 99, and it gets the awful choices of North Tyrone as opposed to State College, and South to West 22, Evansburg, and Bedford. Do you know where US 22 is going? Pittsburgh. So put Pittsburgh on that sign. And, Bedford as opposed to Cumberland, because, evidently Cumberland is not a major place. Or, PennDOT just hates signing out of state whenever they can avoid it. So here is the turn to get onto Interstate 99 Tyrone. As we can also see, we are getting an overhead pull-through for Altoona via Plank Road in the distance. Also the signs for Southbound 99. Past that intersection, here we are coming into, well, technically these are the city limits of Altoona, although we are well east of downtown at this point, but we have a lot of commercial development here, a bunch of restaurants and stuff. We get a 2764 Keystone, turn left here, and we can see another reassurance shield for North Business 220 in the distance. Here we are meeting up with Pennsylvania 36, and we are going to be concurrent with that. Although, interestingly, this sign right here with the Pennsylvania 36 Keystone on top doesn't mention that this is Business 220 straight ahead, although we do get a proper reassurance shield straight ahead, so that is really interesting. And further up the road, Pennsylvania 36 is splitting off, getting signed for Altoona, because that is the route over to downtown, and we get a 2 Interstate 99 Tyrone and Bedford. Ugh. I just wanted to show this Perkins because I've eaten here a couple times, and I love the city of Altoona. So shout outs to Perkins for being the restaurant that defined my childhood, although I don't really eat there too much anymore. But in any case, here Business 220 is splitting into multiple one-way streets. So here is where that begins, as we also get a U-turn. Here we are coming up to 17th Street at the Sheets, which is actually not just your average Sheets. There's a lot of stuff that they have in their Sheets that you can't get at like a regular Sheets convenience store. So that is pretty interesting. And we get another Interstate 99 and 220 Bedford and Tyrone, because it's not like State College is about the same size as Altoona, has the most important university in the whole state, all of the reasons that State College should be a control for 99, but nope, Tyrone, and of course Bedford Southbound, ridiculous. There is no mention of this anywhere, but here at 13th Street, this is the turn to go over to the Altoona Railroaders Memorial Museum, which is a fantastic institution that has lots of exhibits about the history of the railroad in Altoona, which is the reason why the city even exists today. So if you are into railroads and trains, I would highly recommend that you go check it out, and you will not be disappointed. I went there only one time, but still, I had a good time there, even though I didn't go back, but yeah. Here is where the two one-way streets of Business 220 come back together, and we are meeting and going to be concurrent with Pennsylvania Route 764. At this intersection, we now get signed for Tyrone, so that is pretty cool to see. This is what should be signed for Tyrone and not Interstate 99. If you want to Tyrone, you go this way, not on Interstate 99. Yay. Here is another place that I would like to check out someday. This is Marzoni's at the northern edge of the Altoona city limits. So I would like to see what they have to offer because this is another pizza place. This is where 764 effectively ends. Technically, it makes a right turn here, although it just ends immediately after making that right turn when it has a junction with Interstate 99 and 220. So for all intents and purposes, 764 ends right here. I don't know why they have that keystone. But off of this intersection, we are getting now assigned for Bellwood, which, I mean, I suppose that kind of makes sense because, you know, Tyrone is also still quite a distance here. I mean, it's also still faster just to take 99, but, I mean, you should still have that as a secondary on 99 and not a primary. So, I mean, I guess this makes sense. Again, this is a local route more so signing it for the farther places doesn't make as much sense. But in any case, here we are meeting Pennsylvania 865, which is going over to Bellwood, and this is off of another exit from Interstate 99, so we get another set of 2 Interstate 99 and 220 shields as they get signed for Tyrone. Not happy to see that. However, though, if we look off of the exit from Interstate 99, we can see that we are now getting signed for Tyrone as well. So, if the business route is getting signed for Tyrone, then 99 and 220 should be signed for State College. Oh my god. Oh my goodness gracious, PennDOT! If you are going to sign the business route for 220, then why is 99 not signed for State College? This route, the business route, should be used to differentiate the control cities. You should be signing all the local control cities on the business route and put the far away long distance places on the interstate highway. But I mean, it's PennDOT, so like, were we expecting them to make good choices? No, but I still expect this. We are going to move on. A few miles north of that intersection, here we are passing Del Grosso's amusement park, and I've been here a couple times, and if you are a person that loves amusement parks, maybe you should come check this out, although there's another amusement park, admittedly, probably a bit too far away for it to be worth your time to drive. I mean, I still enjoy going there more, but I'm not really a big amusement park guy in general, so if you are that kind of guy, maybe come here, but not really my favorite place. This bridge was being worked on in the summer of 2023, so the road is closed up ahead, although through the power of Google Street View and editing, we can just move on into downtown Tyrone, where we see a reassurance keystone for Southbound Pennsylvania 453, although we are not actually meeting Pennsylvania 453 here, and at our 2 Interstate 99 and 220 shields here, we get no information about Business 220. And then here we actually meet up with Pennsylvania 453, get another set of 99 and 222 shields, and once again, no information about Business 220. So these direction shields and stuff, the signs, they are really weird in downtown Tyrone. And we have a brief concurrency with Pennsylvania 453. If we look at the northern end of it, we don't get any information about Business 220 there either, so I don't know, that's kind of weird. And north of Tyrone, I didn't see any more reassurance shields for Business 220, so I wasn't 100% certain that we still were following Business 220 on the road that goes through downtown Tyrone. But here we get an End Business 220 sign, and look at what PennDOT has done. They made a shield error. We get an End Business 220 Keystone as opposed to the correct shield. So good job, PennDOT. But now I can definitely say that is the end of the Altoona Business 220 route going northbound. So let's start talking about Southbound Business 220 Altoona. At the intersection with Pennsylvania 350 where Business 220 ends, there is quite a lot to unpack. Starting from the perspective off of exit 52 on Interstate 99 going from southbound, we can see that we have a right turn sign for Milesburg, and then turning left is our southbound US 220 business route at 5 miles away. Straight ahead is Pennsylvania 350 getting signed for Phillipsburg, and the right turn is also getting signed for Port Matilda and State College. So that is quite a lot of information for the right turn, but not so much straight ahead in the left turn. Coming from Business 220, making a right turn to go back over to 99. We can see that it is getting signed for Tyrone and Port Matilda, as opposed to the proper primaries of State College and Altoona. Here is a sign before the intersection on Pennsylvania 350 where we see those cities again. Although there is no control city for Business 220 at this turn. Interesting. And then here is the sign that I showed in my own Interstate 99 video that has all of the relevant places for 99 listed. So, like, I don't understand why it's just Port Matilda and Tyrone on those other signs. Although, the one that is really relevant to us is this sign with Tyrone listed at this left turn for 99 and 220 as opposed to Altoona or State College. Although I guess maybe if you're going this way you wouldn't be going to State College. I still think you could have a better choice than Tyrone. And Phillipsburg is signed for 350 at the right turn, and we are getting signed straight ahead for Tyrone Business District. Why not just put Tyrone there and sign 99 and 220 for Altoona? Let's just actually get this route started and stop rambling about this intersection. So, I think there was one reassurance shield for 220 Business South just after this intersection, but we don't get any more. We only see these blue S route signs, and I don't understand what the heck this is all about. We see a few of these in like Altoona and the surrounding area, but again, I'm not really sure what these are supposed to mean. If any of my fellow Altoona locals are watching this, if you could explain like what that is, go ahead and do so down in the comments. But anyway, here we are coming back into Tyrone as we go over, I think this is like a creek. I forget exactly what this is called, but I just thought this was kind of an interesting shot. We meet and are going to become concurrent with Pennsylvania 453 once again as we get a 2 Interstate 99 shield, just Interstate 99, and honestly, I think at every instance where it also gets signed with 220, you don't really need to mention that so much because they are concurrent the whole duration of Interstate 99 in Pennsylvania that currently exists. So yeah, I don't think it's really so necessary. But in any case, where Pennsylvania 453 splits off, we still don't get any information about Business 220, just like on the northbound side, so that's kind of weird. And here is, in theory, where we are turning to stay on Business 220, although, again, we don't get any information about it. We just get another one of those blue S route signs. And here we are coming up to the bridge that is still closed. It opened again. I don't know the state of it. But in any case, we're just going to magically phase through it. And here we get a South Business 220 straight ahead direction sign as we get signed for Tipton, and 99 and 220 are getting signed for Altoona here off of this exit from those. So good stuff. Here we are going through Del Grosso's amusement park once again, although we get a better look at some of the other side of the park. We only saw like the park to our left. In any case, there is a road that gets a direction sign that I didn't show, and we don't get any information on Business 220 right there. So I looked off of that road and we could see that Business 220 is getting signed for Tyrone and Altoona, so interesting. Both roads are signed for Altoona, although I am not as angry about that because, I mean, at least 99 is getting its correct primary there, so this isn't as much of a crime. And I just thought this was an interesting billboard to point out because technically, if you are seeing this billboard, then you are going completely the opposite direction from the place that they are telling you about. You would have to get back on 99 northbound, take it up to 322, and go west to Phillipsburg. So I don't know why this billboard is here. That is really funny. We are meeting Pennsylvania 865 once again, and we get signed for Altoona straight ahead. 865 is getting signed for Bellwood because that is where this route is going. Although we don't get any control cities for 99 and 220. I guess they really don't want to put Cumberland on it or whatever, or have two Altoonas signed, even though that's basically what they did already. But in any case, here is what I believe is probably the first reassurance shield for Southbound Business 220. It has been over 10 miles since we started the route, and we are finally getting one, so that is pretty crazy. And here we are meeting and going to become concurrent with Pennsylvania 764 once again, as we get another 299 and 220 turn left here, although Pennsylvania made another shield error and we get a 220 keystone as opposed to a 220, like a US 220 shield. And once again, 99 and 220 don't get any control cities of their own, as we get Pinecroft for the other direction at this intersection. Here is another regular, like proper 220 business reassurance shield, although we don't get any mention of 764 here, so that's kind of weird. And here is where Pennsylvania 764 leaves our concurrency, as we get no information for Business 220. We only just get another one of these blue S route signs. Although after that split, we do get a reassurance shield for 220 business and a mileage sign with Hollidaysburg on the top line and Bedford 39 miles away on the bottom line. So they're going with that because of Business 220 going to be meeting back up with regular 220, and I really do not like that at all. At Kettle Street, this is kind of an interesting thing I wanted to talk about. So straight ahead we get a South 220 business. Like we were signed for straight ahead. And Google Maps lists this as Pennsylvania 971, which is technically not designated here, although it used to be many years ago, so that is kind of interesting. And here is where Business 220 splits into two one-way streets again. We are coming up to 17th Street once again. Left turn, 99220 Bedford Tyrone. Right turn, Altoona 17th Street. And we are assigned Pleasant Valley Boulevard, which I guess kind of makes sense. Here is where the two one-way streets come back together once again. And we are meeting Pennsylvania 36 once again. You're going to be concurrent with that for a little bit. Another 299, 220 turn left. Here is another instance where we get two reassurance shields for both of our routes, but the Business 220 shield comes first, and then we get the Pennsylvania 36 Keystone a little bit further down the road. Once again, not really sure why that is. Here is where Pennsylvania 36 splits off and is getting signed for Hollidaysburg. I think that is fine because this route is not as important as 22, and it doesn't have bigger fish to fry after leaving Hollidaysburg. And we can also see a right turn blue sign for Horseshoe Curve, and that is one of my favorite places to go watching trains that I would always used to go to as a kid. One of the best places to go see trains in the country, in my opinion. And technically there was also a sign for that on the northbound direction, although it was not in that picture. It was like a bit further back from it. But in any case, here we are meeting 99 and 222, 22 Evansburg and Bedford. Terrible. And here we are getting another one of these blue S route signs, although this time the foreground of the sign is in blue and the circle with the S in it is white. It has a blue S. Here we are meeting and going to become concurrent with 22 once again for a little bit, as it gets signed for Duncansville and not Pittsburgh, although it makes sense for Business 220, and East is getting signed for Hollidaysburg as opposed to Huntington. So here we got a reassurance shield for both West 22 and South Business 220, as we also get 220 and 99, along with a mileage sign with Evansburg on the top line at 19 miles away and Bedford at 31 miles away. So they're kind of favoring both routes and giving them their terrible secondaries. Here is where we split off of US 22, and West 22 is getting signed for Altoona and Evansburg, as we are getting signed for Bedford. Again, just because of coming back to regular 220 and 99. Here is another mileage sign with Bedford on the bottom line, 30 miles away, along with a 2 South Interstate 99 shield. So here we are in East Freedom once again. Straight ahead we get Portage. That is only there because of Pennsylvania 164, which we will be concurrent with soon. The left turn is 2 Pennsylvania 36, signed for Roaring Spring, and then if you turn right, it will take you over to Interstate 99 once again, getting signed for Bedford as opposed to Cumberland. So quite a lot of stuff going on here. And then we become concurrent with Pennsylvania 164 once again, as we don't get a Business 220 shield. Once again, another one of these blue S route signs. And the mileage sign we get here as well only has Claysburg and Portage on it. So it seems like they're favoring Pennsylvania 164 here, but I feel like that's probably a sensible thing to do anyways, because, you know, it's just a business route for 220. Although when we split off of Pennsylvania 164, we see our final mileage sign of this route, I believe, that has Claysburg on the top line and Bedford on the bottom line at 25 miles away. So once again, like, where is Cumberland? Because that Bedford is only there for 99 and 220 regular. I mean, I guess I was saying earlier in this video that, like, it's fine to sign, like, the business routes for the local places, but, like, I don't know. Once again, this is just because of the fact that we're going to be meeting back up with 99 soon, so, yeah. Here is a direction sign for Claysburg, so I guess this is where the turn to go to Claysburg, which is what we were signed for at the beginning of Northbound. But, like, why isn't this sign on the other direction? And I believe this is further than a mile away from that mileage sign we saw at the beginning of Northbound. Here is our intersection in Sproul once again, and off of it we are getting a direction sign for Altoona going northbound, and Bedford southbound. Altoona good, Bedford bad. Again, should be Cumberland, as I've been ranting about these last few slides. But in any case, here we are meeting up once again with regular 220 and Interstate 99, getting the same control cities of Altoona and Bedford. And as far as I'm aware, there is no N220 business shield in this direction. So with that, we will now talk about quarter march 437 is the way it should be for the 220 Altoona business route. I kind of had a bit of trouble trying to put this one together, but I think I came up with a list that makes sense. So here we go. Right off the bat, I do think Claysburg kind of makes sense because that's where the route begins. I mean, it's not exactly like it's some random place in the middle of nowhere, unlike Kirby, which is what we saw on US 19 Northbound. I think it does make sense to sign. But then after that, I think it should be Duncansville, because that is the next real significant place that the business road goes to. Then after that, it should be signed for Altoona. Coming out of Altoona, signed Bellwood. I think that does make a bit of sense because, I mean, if you want to go to Tyrone, you might as well just go on 99. Where it should be a secondary, but I mean, after Bellwood, I do think Tyrone does make sense. And then after that, it should be Port Matilda, because when 220 business ends, you can go straight ahead and get to Port Matilda that way. It's faster to take 99, but that road's got to be signed for something, so I'll leave it as Port Matilda. And then southbound, from the jump, it should be Tyrone. Then after Tyrone, signed Bellwood. And Altoona, because there really isn't anything else along the way. Then Duncansville, Claysburg, and Cumberland, and absolutely not Bedford because of the end dumping back into 99. As we saw with the Bedford business route. So, we have now finished covering both of the business routes for US 220. So, let us now talk about our final route for this video, which is US 220 alternate. So, here is a map of both US 220. It, along with the business routes that we just covered, or the original routing of US 220 before Interstate 99 was designated, and regular US 220 was moved on to its routing, we can see that Alt US 220 begins at a junction with regular US 220 and Interstate 99 west of Fort Matilda, and then it goes north all the way to Milesburg, where it will then become concurrent with Interstate 80 eastbound until it meets the northern end of Interstate 99, where regular 220 will join back up with Alt 220. So, let us start talking about US 220 Alt Northbound. However, before we actually start talking about US 220 alternate, I wanted to correct a mistake that I had made in the US 322 eastbound video. This mileage sign is off of the exit to go over to Southbound, Interstate 99 and 220. And at this mileage sign, there was also a slap-on sign for Milesburg. And I said that was not the right way to get to Milesburg, and that you should take Interstate 99 north to Interstate 80 westbound, and then get off at the Pennsylvania 150 exit, where alternate 220 also becomes concurrent with Interstate 80 going eastbound. No, this right here is the correct way to get to Milesburg. You would want to follow this road into Port Matilda and then make a left turn to get to Milesburg. That is way faster and won't eat up as many miles on your car. So yeah, once again, I'm sorry about spreading some misinformation. You should actually go this way to get to Milesburg. And now here we can see that we are getting a 2 regular US 220, no 99 mentioned, and also information about getting back to 322 westbound, which is right here. You make a left turn in case you want to do that. And to get back onto East 322, you would go straight ahead. And we also get a 2 alternate north US 220 very shortly after. Here is where we are meeting Interstate 99 southbound. Although you can also go northbound here. I don't know. You have to go this way to get to southbound 99 and 220, but if you stay on 322 at that exit we saw at the beginning, you will be on northbound. But anyway, here 99 southbound is getting signed for Altoona, and northbound is getting signed for State College, as it should have been before, like, as soon as it left Altoona, it should be getting signed for State College. But anyway, straight ahead is Port Matilda, and if we go through the intersection, we will go to Port Matilda. We also get a Milesburg 18 straight ahead. And then when we are through that intersection, we get a begin alternate north US 220 shield. So that is pretty interesting. You don't really see a lot of begin shields. Here in downtown Port Matilda, we are turning left to stay on alternate US 220 north, getting signed for State College and Milesburg. Interesting. And at the right turn is actually also an old route of US 220. If you make that right turn, you will eventually end up at the intersection with Pennsylvania 350 and the Altoona business route. But anyway, we will now be making our left turn. And then we get our first technically proper reassurance shield of alternate US 220 north. And after we go through Port Matilda, we get a mileage sign which has State College on the top line at 12 miles away and Milesburg on the bottom line at 18 miles away. Here we are passing under Interstate 99 and US 220 on this massive bridge that it goes over. This is why we were getting signed for State College, on this route because we come to this Trumpet interchange, which will take you to north Interstate 99 and US 220 and east 322, and they are getting signed for State College and Lewistown. Of course, Lewistown being on there for US 322. And we can also see a 2 Interstate 80 shield on the ground. So, a lot of helpful information right here. On the other side of this intersection, now we are getting only places that are on US 220 all on this mileage sign. Unionville 9 miles away and Milesburg 15 miles away. As we also get, in theory, another reassurance shield for US 220 North alternate to Interstate 80, but the actual shields with the numbers fell off. In Unionville, we are going to be meeting and becoming concurrent with Pennsylvania 504. And when we are on our concurrency, we get another 2 Interstate 80 straight ahead, and reassurance Keystone for 504 and an alternate 220 reassurance shield. We get another mileage sign with Milesburg now only 6 miles away on the top line, and Lock Haven is our bottom line because we are going to be meeting Pennsylvania 150, and that is the control for Pennsylvania 150 because it will be going to Lock Haven. So good sign here. We meet and are going to become concurrent with Southbound Pennsylvania 144 as 504 gets an N keystone here. I'm not really sure why 504 doesn't just end at Alt US 20 because there's really no point to it existing along with alternate 220, but in any case, there is a direction sign here for Milesburg straight ahead. Bellefonte is in the middle at 5 miles away, and 144 gets signed for Snowshoe. Here is another North alternate 220 reassurance shield, although this one also gets an up arrow, so that is interesting. And we are technically on a wrong way concurrency with Southbound Pennsylvania 144 with yet another 280 shield right there. Here we are going to be meeting and becoming concurrent with Southbound Pennsylvania 150, although there is no actual exit sign for 150 and 144. Southbound 150 is going to... Actually, no, correction. We are going to be concurrent with Northbound 150. But Southbound 150 turn right here, Milesburg and Bellefonte, and those are the right choices here because 150 is the route that you should take to get to... I don't know. It's better than signing 80 for it. Here is a reassurance shield of Pennsylvania 150, although we get no mention of alternate 220 with, once again, yet another 2 Interstate 80. Here is where we are splitting off of Pennsylvania 150 and going to become concurrent with Interstate 80, signing eastbound for Bellefonte and not New York City. Of course, as always, and 80 West is signed for Du Bois, as opposed to something in Ohio. Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania, never disappointing with its awful, awful control cities. Once we get onto Interstate 80, we get a reassurance shield for both East Interstate 80, and technically we are on alternate 220 still, but it gets a regular North 220 reassurance shield, so that is pretty interesting. And here is the exit for Southbound regular 220 and Interstate 99, along with Pennsylvania 26, signed for Bellefonte and not State College. And we don't ever see an end alternate 220 shield, although I feel like it would be kind of pointless to have anyways, because who's realistically going to see it as they're zooming along the interstate at 70 plus miles an hour? So with that, let us turn around now and start talking about Southbound, alternate US 220. We don't ever actually get any information about alternate US 220 on Interstate 80 itself. So here is the northern end of Interstate 99, where Interstate 80 is getting signed west for Du Bois, of course. And then when we get off of the ramp and we see our first reassurance shield on what is technically alternate US 220 at this point, we just see a west Interstate 80 reassurance shield, and we will be getting off of Interstate 80 at the very next exit, exit 158, which is only signed for Pennsylvania 150, and we get signed for Milesburg, which is the correct choice because Pennsylvania 150 will be going to Milesburg, although I'm kind of surprised they don't mention Lock Haven here, although if you were coming from points east, like say in the Lewisburg area or whatever, Williamsport, I don't know. If you were coming from that way, you would have taken exit 178 to get to Lock Haven off of US 220 regular, so When we get off of this ramp, we get quite an interesting sign salad, maybe? I don't know. There's a lot of information here. We can see our first actual sign telling us that alternate US 220 South is going to be making this turn here. And then we get a 2 Pennsylvania 504 for the junction we're going to have in a few miles down the road. And then we do see Lock Haven signed for Northbound 150, and then Southbound all get the control cities of Milesburg, State College, and Altoona. So Milesburg is 150's southbound control city. It's getting State College on there for its southern terminus at Pennsylvania 26. And Altoona is on there because of South Alternate 220, because 220 always went to Altoona. I don't know. We're just going to move on to these reassurance shields of Alternate 220 and Pennsylvania 150 going south. And then we also see this sign which says that State College is off of the next exit, although if you were coming from Interstate 80 from points east, once again, like say Lock Haven or Williamsburg, whatever, you would have wanted to get off at Interstate 99 and go that way. So this is telling you that if you were getting off of this exit and still wanted to go to State College anyways, you can take PA 150 or theoretically turn around and just get back onto Interstate 80. But in any case, here is where Pennsylvania 150 southbound goes to split off and join up with 144, signed for Milesburg, and we are going to become concurrent with northbound Pennsylvania 144. And here is where that splits off as we meet up with and are going to become concurrent with Pennsylvania 504. 144 gets signed for Snowshoe, and we get signed for Tyrone straight ahead. So the way the control cities work on Southbound are quite interesting, because they'll sign all sorts of stuff at the direction signs, but in theory, well, I mean, I think Port Matilda should be signed here, because that's where you'll have the choice to get back over to regular Interstate 99 and southbound. While if you're going to stay on this route, I guess Tyrone is the appropriate control city, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Port Matilda should be there, because in the context of this route, it's a major junction, so yeah, I don't know. We will just move on to this mileage sign where Altoona is on the bottom line now at 46 miles away. So I'm not sure how that is calculated from this point, because technically you can still go straight all the way and eventually end up in Altoona, so I don't know. I still recommend that at some point you would just get back to 99 if you're going to Altoona from any of these points around here. But in any case, here's where Pennsylvania 504 splits off. And we come up to this random trumpet interchange in the middle of nowhere on alternate US 220 South, where we get two North 220 and East 322, State College, Lewistown. And on this overhead gantry, we also get a sign for Southbound 99 and 220 and West US 322, Tyrone, and Phillipsburg. So, like, why not mention Altoona here if Altoona was on that other mileage sign we just saw? PennDOT. Speaking of mileage signs, the next mileage sign we see doesn't even have Altoona or Port Matilda or anything on there. We get Tyrone on the top line at 14 miles away, and Clearfield is our bottom line at 31 miles away, and that is on there for 322 West. Even though we got Phillipsburg signed before, now they are skipping over it in favor of the next control that 322 West will have. So this is a pretty interesting mileage sign. Here in downtown Port Matilda, once again, well, really our main intersection in Port Matilda, there's not really much of a town there. But in any case, here we are turning right to go over to Interstate 99, 220, and 322. We got signs straight ahead for Tyrone, and our turn is Phillipsburg. So once again, signing the next control for 322. Although once again, when we turn onto alternate South 220 to continue towards 99, 220, our top line is Phillipsburg, and the bottom line is Clearfield at 29 miles away. So we only get 322 places, even though we are literally dead-ending at 99 and 220. And in theory, we should get those controls. I don't know. Again, really weird stuff that PennDOT's doing here. But now we come to the junction of Interstate 99 and 220. We get an end alternate South 220, and then we can see the controls of State College for Northbound, Altoona for Southbound, and if you go through this intersection, you'll eventually get to 322 West, which is what that Phillipsburg is for. And that will bring us to quarter ones, 437s, the way it should be for alternate US 220. I'm going to say right off the bat it should be Port Matilda, and then leaving Port Matilda should be Unionville because of Pennsylvania 504, and then Milesburg after that, and then I'd say the last listed place should be New York City because of going to be concurrent with Interstate 80 eastbound, and then going southbound should be Milesburg because of the turn to become concurrent with Pennsylvania 150, and then Unionville once again because of Pennsylvania 504. I don't know, maybe you could put Snowshoe because of Pennsylvania 144 or something else entirely because of the fact that it's alternate South 220 and eventually go to like Tyrone and stuff, and you're also going to meet 322 in Port Matilda. And then after Unionville, Port Matilda, and then I'd say Altoona because of coming back to regular 220. But with that, we have now finally covered all of the special routes of US 220 minus a truck 220 near Williamsport, but I am not really so much interested in that one. So that will be the end of this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And, well, actually, I should probably discuss my future plans after this video. So it is going to start off with my own version of Pennsylvania Route 26 because, you know, it's a very important route to me and I know a lot about it. And then we will do a reboot of US 322 because the old videos are, well, the eastbound one is plagued with technical issues and both of them are filled with misinformation. And then after that, well, you'll just have to stay tuned. But yeah, once again, guys, thank you so much for watching this video about the US 220 alternate and business routes here in Pennsylvania. And whatever comes next, I will see you all then. Peace. Have a good one.